And we're live. Cool. All right. So thank you guys for being here. I know it's kind of chaotic scheduling, like different schedules and time zones and everything, but we have most of our 2023 World's Strongest Women here. Obviously, Nancy Johnson from the 73 kilo class, myself from the 82 kilo class, Rebecca Roberts from the open division, and then Claire Myler from the Masters 50. So thank you guys for being here. Um, we're like a little over a month out from obviously a pretty great end of the season for all of us. Now that you've kind of settled back into normalcy, how you guys feeling today?
Weird.
Weird.
I'm normal. Yeah, yeah. I guess I normal I'm being it's strange because I was used like post Christmas. That a little bit like kind of at the time got home, load of us were ill. Like pretty much everyone spoke was ill for like a week or two. And then all of a sudden everyone went, oh, it's quick. And it's like,
So weird, like
yeah,
whirlwind.
it's fine. It was mad, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got really sick after OSG as well. I think everybody did.
It
So,
sounds
like,
like
it was
it.
really hard to celebrate because the day that I got back, well, the next day on with my doctors getting antibiotics for chest infection. So I couldn't even celebrate with my family or anything for at least a week because I was just ill.
Better now?
Yeah, a lot better now. I think it lasted about a week and then I flew off to Sweden. So,
Oh, that was
because
so
that's one
fun.
thing that I do after a major competition is I just book something to kind of look forward to that's a bit different
Yeah.
to avoid like post comp downers.
Yeah, to fight the post-comp blues, you gotta stay up.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's, I guess, segue into the topic for the day. So, um, for listeners, I reached out to these ladies shortly after Worlds because I was personally really struggling with that like post competition crash. And thinking about it a lot and realized kind of two things. One, I would have appreciated when I was starting out if it was talked about more openly, so that I didn't feel so alone and knew that it was normal, and that even the people that I looked up to struggled with like real human experiences. Um, and even now, knowing how common it is, it still feels really isolating at times. I think, especially coming off of a win, I almost kind of felt obnoxious talking about it, like no one really understand, like I'm supposed to be happy, but that's not really how it works. So I found that just talking to other people that are in the same boat really helped me. So I asked these ladies if they'd be willing to get together and kind of have a really open and honest conversation about the mental health struggles of being an elite athlete, especially when it comes to that post competition crash. And not as like a pity party, but just as an opportunity for connection and a way for us to realize that we're all human, we're all doing our best, and that the people that look up to us can see that and hopefully relate in a way that's ultimately positive. So I just kind of wanted to talk with you guys about your real experience after a big show like this and kind of what you do during that time.
It's definitely the hardest after a big show, which I think a lot of people think that it would be not as impactful because we've just won something really big. But really, for me, and I'm sure for some of y'all, you spend so many months so hyper fixated on this one thing that when you're finally done with it, you're like, what do I even do now with like the rest of my life or just for the next few weeks? You're kind of in a void almost of you're depressed, but you have a trophy, but you also have nothing currently happening. So you're like, do I throw myself into another prep? Do I focus on just, I don't know, other stuff? It's a lot.
Yeah. Cause I almost feel like it's like sometimes the bigger the accomplishment, the harder the crash.
Yes.
Like, I almost like if I don't do well, it's frustrating and I'm upset about it, but I have like a clear goal or purpose. Like I have a thing that like lit a fire and I can come back to. And it's almost like for
Yeah.
me at least, the better I do, like the worse I feel immediately afterwards, which is a strange thing to explain to people.
But it's
Yeah.
probably also part of like the higher you climb in the ranks, the more you critique yourselves.
Mm.
So even after a big trophy, you're like, okay, what did I mess up? What do I need to fix? And you're focused on that stuff when other people are like, aren't you just excited about the trophy? And you're like, well, I keep going.
For
Yeah, and
sure.
that's one thing that I massively struggled with, like with my win, is that I messed up so many events for me. Like I feel like I underperformed in all but maybe one, maybe two events. And I was like, in a way, I felt like I didn't deserve the trophy because I was like, well, I messed up this event, I messed up that event. I was like, do I really deserve to be the world's strongest woman right now because of the amount of mess ups? So one thing, like in one mind, I did kind of really struggle a little bit to kind of celebrate it. But then at the end of the day, like it was friends and family that reminded me that I was a consistent athlete across all of the events and it's points that matter. So
Yeah. I think ultimately
Yeah.
it's good to remember too that, like, you've put so many years into this so far that, like, if this prep didn't go well or this show didn't go well, like, the reason you're still the world's strongest woman is because of all of the years that you did put in, like, consistent good work to get to a point where even, like, not your best is still the best, but that is hard because everyone wants to come out of a meet feeling like they did awesome. Um, and I can like,
It
that's a hard deal with even if it comes with a trophy.
I had a really weird one because I had obviously being the weirdo that everyone has now announced that I am an insane and doing the two comps. I
So
have on
cool.
one hand, yeah, it's not. It wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't. On one hand, I'm like totally elated because I am the strongest old bird in the world. It's kind of that joke thing that we make, and that's pretty cool. But on the other hand, like Vic said, I kind of underperformed in other areas and overperformed in sort of some things where I went, oh my God, I can't believe I actually managed to like win both of the loading medleys. That was like to do them that close and win both. Uh, um, I can't tell you how much it killed me to not win the deadlift, but I have to keep reminding myself who I was against. Like it's not an understatement to say, I mean, obviously Andrea's not with us today, but to be that close to Andrea on some of those events is just mind blowing. And I have to keep telling myself, you did well. But I was in this whole dilemma of over here going, wow, that's brilliant. And over here going, oh, you did a bit shit really, didn't you? And I kind of had this mixed emotion and I kind of didn't know how to deal with it. And I don't know, like, I still haven't really done a write up about the comp, about my events, what went well, what didn't. I've written it. Every time I write it, I feel like it just feels like it sounds wrong. And I can't explain that to people. And they need to kind of be going, well, but you did great. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't do so well there. And that was a bit, I could have done so much better. And and I kind of think I came out at the end of the comp. We finished, we packed up, got the trophies, and we came out. We went for some food because obviously everyone was starving. And then we were like, oh, aftershave party. And we just went, I had nothing left. And literally, we went back to the house and just
Yeah.
sat there.
Yeah.
And I should have been elated and celebrating and partying. Nothing. Had no emotion at all. Just couldn't.
Yeah. I think I showed up for like 20 minutes and then it was like, ah, leave.
I straight up hit the road.
Yeah.
But
No.
I mean, what Claire and Rebecca both said, I mean, I probably had the worst athletic performance of my entire life, but in those and it's really frustrating because, you have events that you're really, really good at for yourself, and, like, I should beat other people for the most part in these certain things, and then for the 15 minutes of fame, like, when the camera's on you and the stage is hot and everybody's looking, you make a mistake and you don't win that event, it guts you, and you're thinking about it all day long, but also part of you is like, "Okay, we gotta move on to the next event. I gotta stay consistent. I gotta keep fighting." And, to not have all the event wins and then walk away with a trophy is super mind messing, like, trying to curse on here and ruin the video, but it gets to you because you're like, "I shouldn't have won if I did win every single thing." Like, you're hard on yourself for all those little things. And then at the end, you're like, "Do I wanna go celebrate because I'm mad at myself?" Or, like, you hold yourself back from those things.
No. And like similar, like not similar, but different because I can look back and I am for the most part happy with my performance. Like there's always things that could be better, but kind of to, something that Nancy just said, like I didn't win a single event. And that's like equally something that I'm really proud of myself in that like I know that I'm not the best at anything and I'm just well rounded. I'm very proud of that, but it is hard like mentally to not have any really like standout performance and like not make any of the highlight reels because I really didn't win anything. except like really the contest, which is what matters. But that does fuck with my head a little bit because like I'm like I feel like I don't shine at any one thing, and like that messes with my head, and it shouldn't because
I've
that's
been
not
there,
what it's
done
supposed
that. The first year that I won World's Strongest Woman, I did it without winning any single event.
Yeah.
And I came back from that competition feeling deflated as well. Because I was like, I didn't win a single event. I underperformed on everything again. Like it was another prep that I'd had a really hard prep for. And exactly like you, I just felt like I didn't really excel at anything. But then that's when I just got reminded, like, it's not about winning events, it's about racking up the points. And you're obviously consistent among all of the events, and it's a jack of all trades and master of none, and
Yeah.
consistency wins.
Yeah, and it's like it's easy to acknowledge that logically, that strongman's a sport of
Yeah.
just really just not sucking at anything. Um, but it is also hard to like we all wanna have our big highlight moment. Like,
I'll give
Yeah.
you if I give you one benefit to it though, um, I I got in a highlight reel, which was great, which was in the sticks and stones.
Mhm.
Um, and I decided because of t-shirt sizing, I normally get a medium t-shirt, but turns out my shoulders are a bit bigger than I expected, so I have to cut them off. But with my leader's t-shirt, I didn't have time, I didn't have my scissors, so I went up the size. So I'm in a highlight reel wearing a yellow tent, and I just look like this giant buffalo running down with the frame. And it's great, you know, it was a great event. I mean, I tripped with the dinghy, bit annoying, but they kind of like, that's my highlight reel of OSG. That's what I keep seeing. And I'm like, so miserable that it actually looks so horrific in this video. And I'm like,
of all
Well,
the
you're
things
someone have just
you're
done a
also in the one
nice
with the
video.
trophy.
you got some cool trophy
But
at
I've been
least.
crying then. So yeah. So then I'm
I
like
think
all emotional because I've been crying.
I was gonna say, the way we're all talking and we were all obviously on the podium, there's a lot to be said about, the top 10 people probably all have really specific post-comp blues for their placing and the things that happen, or the person that took 11th and didn't go to day 3. Like, I'm sure almost every person that competition who wasn't there just for fun, feeling a lot of the post-comp blues feelings that we feel, we're just feeling them more on a critical sense, I think is the right word.
Yeah, you think at least for me, so like part of it that's hard is I almost feel like if I don't win, I'm more justified in how I feel. Like if I don't quite do what I'm meant to do, like I can be upset and I can talk about it and I can bitch and like, be proud, but ultimately like I have like a reason to be unhappy. And it's almost harder coming off a win because like I feel like I don't have a reason to be unhappy, which makes me feel like I shouldn't talk about it. So like I just feel like people just like roll their eyes, like, oh my God, you just won. You should be happy about it. And it's harder to talk about.
But you also have to choose the right words regardless of how you talk about it, especially
Mm.
like young women or people getting into the sport. They hear, Erin Murray, the winner of 2 weight classes now, first woman, first person to do it. Like, they hear something and they think you're like crying about it. They're going to be like, oh, is this the sport for me? But when you sit back and you're like Claire was saying, she hasn't put up her post yet. She's not sure if it sounds right. Like, you want, I guess, your complaints, or I don't want to say complaints, but the things you are talking about that you're not totally happy with, you want them to come off in a way that still promotes the sport in a good light and promotes
Mhm.
you as a positive person. It's all very hard when we're all really hard on ourselves.
It's hard
Pick
to
ourselves
balance.
all day long, but we don't want to do it in front of the new novice people to the sport.
Yeah. And it's
But
a
then
hard
I
balance
think
to
us
find.
being hard on ourselves is what makes us the athletes that we are. Because if we're not critiquing ourselves, if we're not pushing ourselves to get better each time, then we wouldn't probably be world's strongest women winners today.
No.
So I feel like that self critique actually benefits us
It's
sometimes as well, because we're the ones that sit down and pick apart all of our performances, and that's how we improve and get better for the next one, hopefully.
I think one of the themes of is trying you want to be really proud of what you've done. And I am proud of what I've done. You know, it was when I look at it, from the outside in, it was amazing. But when you come to kind of write about it, I find it really hard to write things because I'm so critical of myself to write things and kind of go, well, I underperformed here without making it sound like the person that beat me wasn't as good as me. And that's not what I'm saying. It's kind of going, I know I could do better. I know that I should have done this and I should have done that. And I want to write about that because that's the things that would drive me to improve. I find sometimes when you come to write a report, you kind of go, oh, sounds like excuses. It sounds like I don't want to sound like I'm being like putting any other athlete down. I want to sort of praise them for their performance as well, but I want to sort of say, I know I could have done better. I know I could have done that. And I find that's really because I was like, oh, you were really good. And your first instinct is, yeah, but I wasn't so great at that. And,
That is our
and
first
I find that
instinct.
like,
We
it is.
should be able
I
to
think that's
first
probably,
celebrate. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like we
I'm
critique and
trying
then
to say,
celebrate when really we should celebrate, then critique.
it's the same to start your conversations with thank you. And then kind of, but, but normally I quite often I would start with the, and then go, oh, and thank you.
And not
Well, I
everybody
think you,
understands it. A lot of
yeah,
people, come off a competition floor and you didn't finish an event that you finished a million times in training. You're trying to have the most composed version of yourself, but somebody will say like, "Oh, great job." And you're like, "Are you serious? Do you do you know anything about me? Do you know I'm better? I'm capable of more?" And it's not their fault. They don't know every detail about you. They're just trying to be supportive, but you take it as like, that wasn't the best. What are you talking about?
um, I think when we were talking about it, the thing is you said when people look in or expect us to be, wow, we've achieved everything. And you've achieved what we set out to do. But equally, you kind of, for me, I've got to have the next thing. I kind of have to go, right, what next? How am I going to, if not necessarily better that, because that's a pretty difficult thing to better, isn't it? Being world's strongest woman in your degree, but to have something else to focus on. I think, Nancy, you said at the start, we spent months, literally months and months, probably from last year. I mean, lately for you, Nancy, I recover and then again, honest, but it's kind of that's the focus, that target, that's what we're going for. And then all of a sudden it's gone. And you go, what next? And for me, I have to have a competition booked in. And
Yeah.
I've got, that's planned and stuff. But you always sort of think, well, that's there. What's after that? What's after that? Got to kind of keep planning in advance to have something to know that you're going to come out the next competition and not feel shit too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're like looking
that's
forward
been
to
quite
break.
difficult for me.
No, go ahead.
Especially after, in the last year, losing Paul, and then obviously I've lost my dad, a few weeks, well, about 2 months ago nearly now. Lifting and putting myself in competition preps was a way of me dealing with my grief. So focusing on, firstly it was the Arnolds, focusing on that, I just put everything into that prep just because of the whole, I don't know, it just helped me grieve to be able to focus on something and have something positive in my life. So that's why last year I competed the most that I've ever competed, in a year's span. And right now I'm just shattered, but I've still got competitions booked in. I've promised my coach that this year I'm going to be competing a lot less. But last year, I think having, like you say, that goal of having something booked in straight after each competition, that really helped me because it was just a positive thing for me to look forward to rather than, because what else would I have done? I'd have sat at home and moped, and going to the gym and working towards something positive is something that really helped me with my mental health last year. And that was why I booked to go to Sweden just over a week after World's Strongest Woman, because I was like, I know after this competition I'm gonna need something just positive to look forward to because we all know, post competition downers happen. And I was just like, "Do you know what? I'm gonna go to Sweden. I'm just gonna have a bit of fun and go out and do some grit." Because that was one thing that I massively missed doing. But that really helped with my post competition blues, is just having something like that. Even if it was just something small, it was just something to distract me.
Yeah. And I know it was for you, but your story, you might be tired of hearing this, but your story, like all the things you've experienced last year and your openness and being able to say like I'm competing for this and this is what I'm putting myself into and this is why, I think has shed a light on a lot of the relatable things that we all go through. Like we're all still people and you shared so much of your personal life last year in a way that I think probably inspired a lot of young women to be like, okay, I fighting on, I can do this. It's a great outlet. And those things are really important. Even talking about post comp blues is important.
Yeah, definitely. The more that we can talk about mental health, it hopefully helps other people feel like they're more relatable. Like there's a lot of people, like when I do Q&As on Instagram, a lot of people ask me about post-comp blues and how I deal with them. So it'll be really good to kind of get this out there and just see if this helps people deal with after a show, whether it be a local novice show or like as like competing at the pinnacle of the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's the bit which is a really bad experience. And because we are competing, doing it at this level, they assume that you kind of you act together and you're great all round, and they don't realize that you haven't. Uh, most of us have got some kind of trauma going on, something's driven us in a way that makes us so focused on what we're doing. And it's nice to see that people can relate with that and you can help by doing that and you inspire to do something different. Equally,
Totally.
people then put you on a pedestal that should be so great. So it's really hard to show emotion afterward because people feel like you don't want to let people down. You don't want to like almost kind of make people think, oh, they, you're emotional and you're going to cry and you're going to break down, kind of going, oh, no, no, I'm all right. I'm good. Thank you. I've enjoyed cracking on to the next one when actually it's sobbing into your oats kind of thing. And you're like, oh, what's next?
Sure. Obviously, I'm coming back into this after some technical difficulties, but kind of jumping back in, like, kind of mental health is something that I am really passionate about talking about openly. And I think kind of what some of you guys are saying, like, it happens at every level. And I don't think it's something that goes away. And like, I used to think that talking about it would be kind of negative and steer people away. And like, why would I want to keep pursuing that? But I do all these, like, interviews and podcasts. People want to talk about it in terms of like, how did you get over X, or like, what did you do to overcome or like fix or heal? And I don't think that's helpful because it's not something that just goes away. Like it's like you don't get over having mental health issues. You learn how to manage them and deal with them better and cope and use them in a positive way. And I think pretending like it ever goes away is actually a disservice to people who then feel like they're doing something wrong when they can't fix it. When like I don't think it's a thing to fix. I think it's a part of what makes us who we are. I wouldn't change that for the world, but we can learn about it and manage it better and talk about it openly and connect through it.
Yeah. I mean, just what you said, talking about it when Erin first asked, she was like, I might be crazy and this might just be me. But I was like, no, I feel post comp blues all the time. And we used to joke on my team that other people didn't feel it because other people didn't seem to talk about it. And we would just talk about it openly. And when Erin started the conversation, I was like, oh, well, then this could be helping, potentially helping novice people or people who are about to get their pro card, climb the ladder, like see that we all feel this way. We all feel bummed when it's over because you work so hard for it, whether you win or lose. Once it's over, and you're bummed about it. So connecting and communicating how you feel, whether you feel like it's complaining or not, I think is important because it helps you get off your chest and relate with other people in your weight class or not in your weight class.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a opportunity.
I find this the level of vulnerability in sports, well, particularly um, in terms of how we look. So a lot of my anxiety and my stress are from physical things, and go, oh, no, but you look great, and I'm like, yeah, that's not what I see. That's not how I
Not what I
feel.
feel.
And I think
Yeah.
in some I'm so terrified of putting some of the videos. But yeah, but you put stuff in your bikini and stuff like You do not know how much effort it takes me to do that, to force myself into being confident in how I work. But when I see a video, particularly when I'm competing, um, I'm like, I look like Bag Lady half the time. I've got like all sort of weird outfits on because that's what's comfortable to compete. And people go, oh no, she plays videos. I need all of the trolls online going, oh, like, look at these blokes, look at this. And I remember, after the Arnolds at the start of the year, and like Dick doing the deadlift and the comments that she got and at home sobbed for this and knowing how cruel it was. And I think like this time last year, I had an article done on me, like an online paper in the UK, and the comment I got, and it just terrifies me to post up videos when I'm competing because I can't deal with that kind of trauma. And I'm going, yeah, but I'm proud of them. Going, I'm not strong enough to deal with people, saying I'm ugly and all these things. I just can't do it.
But you
Yeah.
are strong
That
enough.
was one thing that happened to me after, well, one of the reels for World's Strongest Woman that Official Strong One posted up. It's got like close to 3 million views, and it's the one where David's getting me on his shoulders. And there was probably like 99% of them were really positive comments. And there was the 1% of people like, oh, not out of 10. Oh, she doesn't look like, I don't know, like Victoria's Secret model. And there was loads of like trash comments. So it was only like maybe 1% though. And I put that post up. I don't know if you saw it, but like I was just like, I don't compete in this sport to be sexualized. I compete in this sport to feel strong, to be strong, and to inspire other people. And when you look at these like profiles of the people that are putting these comments up, what are they achieving? And that's how I look at things now. I'm just like, this person obviously has even deeper insecurities to feel like they need to comment on my body when I've just achieved the pinnacle of my sport. Like, I'm doing this to be a positive inspiration, both in my life and in other people's lives. And I just look at the people now that make the negative comments, and I'm like, what are you achieving with your life? You're achieving nothing, and I'm out here like competing, being the best person that I can be, and helping potentially thousands, if not millions, of people. And that really helps me with like the negative comments that I get.
That's good. And I'm glad it does because you sharing that story when you put it on your main page, because I remember you put it in your stories first and then you put it on your main page. And I remember reading that and going, oh, I feel that. Like I can connect with that. And I really appreciated the honesty. And I'm sure there's so many young people that can look up to us in our vulnerable moments and be grateful that we're sharing a vulnerable moment, whether it's uncomfortable for us or not.
Yeah, and, like, it doesn't have to be like a woe is me thing, but, like, be like a, you know, just share because I think that it's important for I think it's important for people to know that we're also just people. Like, we're also, like, real human with real feelings and
Yeah.
real issues, and, like, we're all just out here, like, trying.
Yeah. And the trolls want to put you deeper into your post comp blues and convince you to never compete again if they could, because they're insecure and they can't be like you and they want to take you out so that you can't be like you. But you got to remember you're tough and better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, like, one of many, many reasons why, like, I can't go straight back to real life immediately afterwards. Like, I used to do that where, like, "Oh, I just gotta get back to work, like, the next day," and I have to take, like, a week in between to just, like, separate, have, like a buffer between, like, contest and reality,
Yeah.
like
Like like a trip like Rebecca said, or just like an odd hobby to do, something
yeah,
silly.
yeah. Yeah, for a
Great
lot of
way.
reasons. I think one, it's good to get off social media because people are always gonna say shitty things, like, just to have, like, a break from that, a break where, like, you don't have to necessarily worry about, like, what the next goal is, and then for me, it's always weird to go from this huge, like, elated, on top of the world, like, almost celebrity doesn't feel like the right word, but, like, just feeling like a badass to then just, like, going back to normal life and, like,
Yeah.
going grocery shopping and,
So
like,
weird.
like, it doesn't feel real. This weird disconnect where it's like, this doesn't even feel like
Just feels like it's like my alter ego.
yeah, and it was so weird this year. It's gonna seem silly probably when I say it out loud, but, like, I had the braids in this year, and it kind of fucked with my head because I came back and I always come back and I kinda don't feel like the same person, and then I literally looked at myself in the mirror and didn't even look like the same person anymore than I did, like, the week prior,
Yeah.
and it was really weird for me to, like it felt like a different person was there, and I'm, like, not that anymore, and I have to, like, remind myself, like, I'm still that person, like, even though I'm not on the contest floor and on the podium and stuff, like, we are all still that person to go back to normal lives.
Yeah.
See,
Especially
yeah,
as a weight class
yeah,
athlete, sometimes when you fluctuate in weight, you're like, "Am I even the same athlete?"
Yeah,
And it's the scale, it's the silliest thing, like, who cares?
yeah, like
mine was about like actual the event stuff. So obviously, you've gone there and you've competed and you've lifted heavy stuff and you performed and you've done all that. And then, like, I was quite lucky. I came back. My coach said to me, it just said, "Have fun, don't be stupid," because she knows that I would religion within because I it's part of what keeps me selling. And I went in and I think I hit three PBs in like aerobic training, which was great because, yeah, okay, I feel like I gave me the lift I really needed. And then AFCON program, you kind of go back to basics and it's probably about some new events. And, I would tick at them because there are new events, never tried them. Like, cake breads, sandbags. I bruised on my face, like some things on my head. I've done all sorts. Just learning new things. But I suddenly kind of go, I am not an athlete. I am so not an athlete. I am just some incompetent, mildly strong place. Um, and I think you kind of go from top lights on again and build back up and you just think like,
Yeah.
please let me lick something moderately typing in print. I'm not incapable.
Well, I mean, every comp is so different that you finish one comp and you have to switch to these different events, and you're like, "Do I even remember how to do this thing again? Am I still an athlete?" The imposter syndrome
Yeah.
sets in.
because I mean, ultimately, what you
Yeah,
should be doing, at least I think, coming off for a competition, is you should be working on the things that you're not so good at. Like, that's what off season's for, is to, like, revisit the things that you
before.
suck at. That can be really humbling and mess with your head coming off a win to be like, "Oh, now I'm gonna work on all the things that make me feel like I'm terrible at this." Like,
Oh,
Yeah, that
absolutely.
really
That's
messes with my
that's
head,
it.
especially like when I have a bad session, I have major imposter syndrome. I'm like, am I really the world's strongest woman? Like, there was a session even this week. I warmed up to my first working set of deadlifts, and I was just like, I messaged my coach, and I was like, I'm going home, and it was only 140 kilo plus bands, so like just over 300 pound plus bands, and it just wasn't moving, and I'm just like, I was supposed to be deadlifting like 600 plus pounds in a few months. Like, am I really like, am I the world's strongest woman or not? Like, it makes me feel like there's a pressure on me to achieve in the gym constantly because of this title win. Like, that I've got to be strong all year round because of this title that I've just won. And
Yeah.
then whenever I have a bad session, that does kind of affect me sometimes mentally. It does give you like imposter syndrome, but then suppose that happens to everyone.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
think there's the pressure to maintain, like, once if you're not at the top yet,
Yeah.
like, climbing, but then once you get there, there's, like, a pressure to maintain that, and I know for myself, like, looking back at last year, like, I did everything I set out to do last year, like, I hit every goal, and that's awesome, but now it almost, like, stresses me out because I'm kinda like, "How do I go up from there?" Like, I feel like I have a pressure to, like, keep climbing, and I have this, like, insecure feeling of, like, "Well, there's nowhere to go but down now," and it's like
Oh,
that and I know that that's ridiculous, but it's like that pressure to maintain or, like, prove that we deserved it, which doesn't make any sense because we already did that by
for the
winning,
Yeah.
but, like
it's all it's one of those, like, perspective things. You need to be able to sit back and, like, for me, I didn't excel at all the events that I wanted to win because I had done them so well in training, but it took me a while to sit back and say, "Okay, you know what? I'm coming back from this injury, and the fact that I can win without all these event wins makes it more worth it." So, like, you gotta there is some forced perspective you have to do, get yourself out of that bad mental mindset. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. You can sit back and be like, all right, I'm a badass, whatever. Like, I'm cool. But other times it's harder, especially if you're rolling right into another comp prep. You're like, am I even supposed to be here anymore sometimes? But you just went through something really intense and your body's like, give me a second. I'm trying to catch up. Like, not every day is the end of your career.
Yeah. Yeah, and something that I
It,
like
it,
to do is just, um, like, taking those thoughts and, like, writing them down or saying them out loud and actually being able to, like, look at them or hear them from, like, an outside perspective, like, as if I was talking to a friend and think, like, "If anyone else said this to me, what would my reaction be?" Like,
Yeah.
would I take this seriously if it wasn't coming from my own head?
Or
And
would you
most
say it's
time
coming up?
yeah, I think I'm quite lucky in that way because, I mean, I've got like Becca like around me quite a lot. I like obviously I've trained with Dharma as well. Um, to Katie, I think like some like and Nick as well, and ha- having sort of athletes that compete at that level. I come up with my pathetic little whingy cries. They go, "No, you are good enough. No, like you do deserve this." I mean, I like Becca's like me down numerous times when I've kind of been like on a wing fest and going, I don't deserve to be there. And she's like, you wouldn't be there if you don't deserve to be there. But um, I feel sometimes when some of the athletes who are looking at it go, why is she there and I'm not there or something, and you kind of go, well, like, you know, so if you can, you have to be able to compete and compete in all of it. So I look at and on my overhead thing, you know, it's my weights and overhead. I'm kind of random as hell at it. And I see all these people like lifting these amazing weights, like social media, and I'm like, oh my God, I should not be there because I can't do that. And then I look and kind of go, you know, I'm pretty good at deadlifting. And, you know, I look at that and go, everyone's that's very between the athlete if we achieve perform overall. And I think that's taking yourself away from the false reality of social media when you only look at the good things. It's like, you know, post the complete and utter shit shows that I do sometimes in training. It's sometimes they just purely because they're entertaining, but you know, those bad sessions that you do where you come in and you like a 50K log and you're like, oh my God, yeah, I can't clean. I'm not going to post that up that day. Now I'm going to post my deadlift. So, and everyone's like, oh, great, this is good. And it's like, yeah, you did not see log this week. So
yeah.
you need to kind of tell yourself that you're good enough and take that away from social media. It's quite hard.
Yeah, and, like, to that point, like, we live in this weird world where of social media where, like, everything you see is this, like, curated version of reality that people want you to see, and I think that's why, like, these kinda talks are important because it's hard when you're just comparing yourself to people's highlight reels all the time, and, like, there's not really an understanding of, like, that's only a very small curated percent of someone's life, um,
Yeah.
and that you can't connect with people that way.
I think
I
you really
think
got to
that's
And you
work.
how
don't
I've
see
managed to develop a lot of connections in the last year. Is that I just decided over that last year that I'm going to make my social media as honest and as raw as possible. Like last night, I posted 70 kilo squats. Now, 70 kilo squat is not impressive to anybody really, like in the top, God knows how much people of the sport. But to me, that was my little win because it was a squat to depth. And like that I post things now that they're not all impressive things, but like I just want people to realize that A, we don't train to maximum constantly. B, we're not always gonna be lifting all these impressive things. Like it's lifting the lighter weights consistently that kind of helps build the strength and hoping that kind of putting across this more honest and real version of myself actually inspires other people to be like, okay, like hopefully they can understand that it's not always going to be the case where they have to lift heavy all the time. I think one of the posts that I put up about ditching my session and coming back and doing it the next day, somebody commented on it and said, Oh, I did that the other day, and I'm glad that you posted about this because it makes me feel like I'm not alone in the way that this happened to me. And it's
Yeah,
like it's just being more raw and honest, I think will benefit a lot of people.
I get watching coming in and commenting to me about, oh, they're like, oh, you're superhuman, you do all this because of my age and that I'm still doing this. And with that, I mean, it is insanity, but it's almost like they think that I'm not having the same challenges as them, but because I don't post about it so much, mostly because I can post about how much I care how morning. That's all I'll think about all day. Um, but I hope that I sort of try to invite it and say, look, not age is just a number because it's not. My bones tell me age is not just a number. It's very genuinely real. But I kind of want people to realize you can still do it. You can still play and still do stuff. Um, and that I'm shit at things as well. And and I'm tired and I'm emotional and broken and all of these things as well. But that you can still do it and be those things.
Mhm.
And kind of a lot of them going, oh, well, I can't do it yet. I haven't got time. I'm like, time, time is all under your own control. Everybody's got the time. You just got to prioritize what's most important to you. I've just got a lot of dogs around me today. Sorry. They're all coming in to see what's going on.
Yeah, I think ultimately, like, just posting the good stuff is also a disservice because it makes people then feel like they're failing when it doesn't go well. But I feel like anytime I post lists that, like, I failed or, like, wasn't what I wanted, I have people reaching out, like, just saying, like, "Thanks, it's nice to see that it's like this for you sometimes too, and I appreciate that you post the times that, like, that you also fail sometimes, and you also have bad workouts sometimes, and you also, like, decide to go home sometimes, and, like, that those are all okay, and it gives other people then permission to feel like that's okay.
absolutely. And it validates their experience. Like just going through an injury and coming back and sharing, like, oh, I was able to squat today or kind of run today. Like I thought people wouldn't care about that stuff. And then I started connecting with different people who had injuries and they're like, oh, like you're going through this too. Like that's awesome. We're healing and we're growing. And that's where like Rebecca saying her squat felt good to her. Like that was something we're sharing because that was a comparison of something that probably was either uncomfortable or that she was working on. And like we should be sharing those completely all around things. And I mean, in general, I'm going to have to hop off soon, but I did just want to conclude my piece by saying the post comp blues are very normal. The ebbs and flows and emotions are very normal, but community is important. Finding different outlets during that post comp blues. I like reading. I like getting outside with my dog more and getting back to the basics, just finding things that make you happy again. Like you will get out of the post comp blues, you know? So reach out to one of us if you need to. I mean, we all have different ways of dealing with stuff, but I
Yeah.
love being part of this conversation. I just do have to, unfortunately, hop off here.
That's alright. Thanks for joining us.
But
Appreciate
thanks
you.
for having me, guys. I love sharing this stuff.
Alright. Then and then Nancy's getting off, but I just wanna wrap up because I think, well, we talked a lot about, like, the struggles, but, like, we wouldn't be doing this if I feel like we wouldn't be doing this if the positives did not outweigh the negatives. Like, we all have reasons that we're doing this. There's reasons that we choose to work through the parts that are really hard. So I just wanted to end with what makes it worth it to you.
It makes it worth it to me to know that I'm helping to inspire other people to be who they want to be and do what they want to do in life. It was at the Nations Con that I actually cried, because a woman came up to me and she made me a ring and, it's like it was engraved with "Know Your Worth," and she was saying, "Because I've followed you the last year, I've had the courage to kind of leave a domestic violence relationship, and I've started this sport, and I'm in a happier place," and I get messages almost daily from people that say because they've seen me put myself out there, they've had the confidence to go and try sport. They've had the confidence to. A woman came up to me and said that the next day, because she was plus size, she felt worthless. And the next day after seeing me, competing, she walked into work the next day with her head held high. And it's putting myself out there on that stage to help other people, that makes it worth it to me. And I might get 1% of the negative comments, but those 99% of the positive comments and the change that I'm making in this world makes it worth it.
Beautiful.
I mean, I'm probably conflicting. I'd to be totally altruistic and say, oh, it's all about helping other people. And I love that that's kind of almost, it for me, because I got the fame and the thing that Becca comes in, but I hope that I inspire probably the more mature ladies that they can still do this as part of the sport. You don't have to, you don't just have to start when you're young and progress. That you can when you're a bit older, uh, that you can still work hard, you still perform. In some cases, you can still perform with the sort of the younger girls or the bigger girls, things like that. That it doesn't matter. You can still do whatever you want to do, and that's a great kind of side tip for me. It's not necessarily the main reason for me. Quite selfishly, I do it because it keeps me sane. And I am getting a bit older. Um, I've I've always competed on like multiple different sports through my life, and I'm always kind of want to challenge myself and go, what else can I do? I don't want to just fade away and be on the sofa, just kind of feeling sorry for myself. I want to be out there every day, living my life and doing the best I can in that life and meeting new people, traveling places and just have fun. And I love competing. Just love it so much.
Yeah. Like, I definitely would not be here if it wasn't for the sport. Um, I've gone through a lot of mental health problems over the years, and this sport has definitely pulled me through a lot of them. Like, it's not just the gym, like going to the gym, obviously that helps your mental health, but it's the people that I've met through this sport. They've become friends for life, and it's definitely a sport that I'll always hold deep in my heart, even after I retire.
Yeah. I think same, like, I've struggled with mental health my entire life, and strength sports and strongman specifically has really done a lot with helping me manage that, both in the people that I get to meet, and it gives me a purpose. Like, that's something that I think I always really struggled with is, like, what are we doing here? And it just gives me a sense of purpose in how I can, relate to and hopefully motivate and inspire other people, but then also just what I can accomplish in my own life and the incredible opportunities and experiences that this sport has given me is not something that I would have ever had otherwise. So I think, ultimately there's a lot of things that we struggle with, but I mean, we're still here because we get something back from the sport that heals us too. So
So then
also good to share.
it's also one day to be able to pick up heavy stuff when you need.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah,
Picking up rocks is fun.
definitely.
All right. Well, thank you guys. We'll sign off now.
Okay, thanks guys. See you soon. I'll see you in
It's been great chatting to you.
about
See
8
you
weeks.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.